Well, hello everyone. It's great to have you here. We are now starting on chapter 14. We went from 13 to 12 to 14. Hi Nathan. They're waving at me out the window. My family can't come into the house because of the coronavirus, so we can't hang out in front of the fireplace, so I'm hanging out with all of you. I have to do it a little early tonight, but I'm glad to be with you, and you can listen to this anytime you want. Good to have you here. Tonight we're going to see how Bree became a wiser horse. Remember, Bree is a talking horse. And the last time there was a huge time before last night where this connects is after the big battle. And Erebus wasn't such a great soldier, but the king loved him at the end. So tonight we're going to talk about how Bree became a wiser horse. You know, not only can he talk, but he's wise and became wiser. So this is really a lot of fun, this chapter. And I think, I'll look, but maybe next we'll read the Silver Chair. I'm not sure yet. And I'll let you know. We have one more chapter and then we'll start a new book. So I will see you tomorrow night at 7. How Bree became a wiser horse. We must now return to Erebus and the horses. The hermit watching his pool. Remember, the hermit could look in the pool and see what was going on with the battle? He couldn't hear anything, but he was like a vizier. He could kind of see. The hermit watching his pool was able to tell them that Shasta was not killed or even seriously wounded, for he saw him get up and saw how affectionately he was greeted by King Luna, as I said. But as he could only see, not hear, in the pool, he did not know what anyone was saying, and once the fighting had stopped and the talking had begun, it was not worthwhile looking in the pool any longer. Couldn't hear anything. I hope you enjoy these tulips. My daughter Abigail brought them to me, and we can't be near each other, but we brought them, we sterilized the stems, and I have them here by the fire. They're a really beautiful, kind of fluffy, fancy Dutch tulip. So nice. So the talking had begun, and it was not worthwhile looking in the pool any longer. Next morning, while the hermit was indoors, the three of them discussed what they should do next. I've had enough of this, said Quinn, the other talking horse, as you remember. The hermit has been very good to us, and I'm very much obliged to him, I'm sure, but I'm getting as fat as a pet pony, eating all day and getting no exercise. Let's go on to Narnia. How many of you want to go on to Narnia? I feel like all of us are kind of like in the situation with the pool and the hermit. Oh, not today, ma'am, said Bree. I wouldn't hurry things. Some other day, don't you think? We must see Shasta first and say goodbye to him and apologize, said Erebus. It was Shasta who didn't do so well, and the king welcomed him back. But we must see him and say goodbye to him and apologize, said Erebus. She's being very sweet. Exactly, said Bree with great enthusiasm. Just what I was going to say. Oh, of course, said Wynne. I expect he is in Antwerp. Naturally, look in on him and say goodbye. But that's on our way. And why shouldn't we start at once? After all, I thought it was Narnia we all wanted to get to. Kind of sounds like it. I suppose so, said Erebus. She was beginning to wonder what exactly she would do when she got there, and she was feeling a little lonely. Of course, said Bree hastily. But there's no need to rush things, if you know what I mean. Yeah, well, let's see what happens here. No, I don't know what you mean, said Wynne. Why don't you want to go? Muttered Bree. Don't you see, ma'am? It's an important occasion, returning to one's country, entering society, the best society. It is so essential to make a good impression. Not perhaps looking quite ourselves yet, huh? Oh, not perhaps looking quite ourselves yet, huh? Wynn broke out into a horse laugh. Oh. It's your tail, Bree. I see it all now. You want to wait till your tail's grown again. And we don't even know if tails were worn long in Narnia. Really, Bree, you're as vain as a Tarkina in the Tashbaan. You are silly, Bree, said Erebus. Sorry, you are silly, Bree, said Erebus. By the lion's mane, Tarkina. I am nothing of the sort, said Bree indignantly. I have a proper respect for myself and for my fellow horses, that's all. Bree, said Erebus, who was not very interested in the cut of his tail, I've been wanting to ask you something for a long time. Why do you keep on swearing by the lion and by the lion's mane? I thought you hated lions. So I do, answered Bree. But when I speak of the lion, of course, I mean Aslan, the great deliverer of Narnia who drove away the witch in the winter. All Narnians swear by him. But is he a lion? No, of course not, said Bree, in a rather shocked voice. All the stories about him in Tashbaan say he is, replied Erebus. And if he isn't a lion, why do you call him a lion? Well, you'd hardly understand at your age, said Bree. And I was only a little foal when I left, so I don't quite understand it myself. Bree was standing with his back to the green wall while he said this. The other two were facing him. He was talking in a rather superior tone with his eyes half shut. That was why he didn't see the changed expressions in the face of Wynn and Erebus. They had good reason to have open mouths and staring eyes, because while Bree spoke, they saw an enormous lion leap up from outside and balance itself on the top of the green wall. Only it was brighter yellow, and it was bigger and more beautiful and more alarming than any lion they'd ever seen. And at once it jumped down inside the wall and began approaching Bree from behind. It made no noise at all, and Wynn and Erebus couldn't make any noise themselves, no more than if they were frozen. No doubt, continued Bree, when they speak of him as a lion, they only mean he's as strong as a lion, or, to our enemies, of course, as fierce as a lion, or something of that kind. Even a little girl like you, Erebus, must see that it would be quite absurd to suppose he's a real lion. Hey, Bunky, are you a lion? Indeed, it would be disrespectful. If he was a lion, he'd have to be a beast, just like the rest of us. Why? And here Bree began to laugh. If he's a lion, he'd have 4 paws and a tail, and whiskers. Oh, help. For just as he said the word whisker, one of Aslan's had actually tickled his ear. Bree shot away like an arrow to the other side of the enclosure, and there turned. The wall was too high for him to jump, and he could fly no further. Erebus and Wynn both started back. There was about a second of intense silence. Come on up. Then Wynn, though shaking all over, gave a strange little neigh and trotted across the lion, to the lion. Please, she said, you're so beautiful. You may eat me if you like. I'd sooner be eaten by you than fed by anyone else. Dearest daughter, said Aslan, planting a lion's kiss on her twitching velvet nose. I know you would not be long in coming to me. Joy shall be yours. I knew you would not be coming to me for very long, and joy shall be yours. Then he lifted his head and spoke in a louder voice. Now, Bree, he said, you poor, proud, frightened horse, draw near. Nearer still, my son, do not dare, not to dare touch me, smell me. Here are my paws, here are my tail. These are my whiskers. I am a true beast. Aslan, said Bree in a shaken voice, I'm afraid I must be rather a fool. Happy the horse who knows that while he is still young, or the human either. Draw near, Erebus, my daughter. See, my paws are velveted. You will not be torn this time. This time, sir, said Erebus. It was I who wounded you, said Aslan. I'm the only lion you met in all your journeyings. Do you know why I tore you? No, sir. The scratches on your back, tear for tear, throb for throb, blood for blood, were equal to the stripes laid on the back of your stepmother's slave because of the drugged sleep you cast upon her. You needed to know what it felt like. Yes, sir, please. Ask on, my dear, said Aslan. Will any more harm come to her by what I did? Child, said the lion, I am telling you your story, not hers. No one has told any story but their own. Then he shook his head and spoke in a lighter voice. Be merry, little ones, he said. We shall meet again soon. But before that, you will have another visitor. Then in one bound, he reached the top of the wall and vanished from their sight, just like that. Strange to say, they felt no inclination to talk to one another about him after he'd gone. They all moved slowly to different parts of the quiet grass, and there paced to and fro, each alone, thinking. About a half hour later, the two horses were summoned to the back of the house to eat something nice that the hermit had got ready for them. And Erebus, still walking and thinking, was startled by the harsh sound of a trumpet outside the gate. Who is there? Asked Erebus. His Royal Highness Prince Kor of Archenland, said a voice from outside. Erebus undid the door and opened it, drawing back a little way to let the strangers in. Two soldiers with halberds came first, took their stand at each side of the entry. Then followed a herald and a trumpeter. His Royal Highness Prince Kor of Archenland desires an audience of the Lady Erebus, said the herald. Then he and the trumpeter drew aside and bowed, and the soldiers saluted, and the prince himself came in. Oh my. All his attendants withdrew and closed the gate behind them. The prince bowed, and a very clumsy bow for a prince it was. Erebus curtsied in the Calormene style, which is not at all like ours, and did it very well, because of course she had been taught how to do it. Then she looked up and saw what sort of person this prince was. She saw a mere boy. He was bareheaded, and his fair hair encircled a very thin band of gold, hardly thicker than a wire. His upper tunic was made of white cambric, as fine as handkerchief, so that the bright red tunic beneath it showed through. His left hand, which rested on his enameled sword hilt, was bandaged. Erebus looked twice at his face before she gasped and said, Why, it's Shasta. Shasta all at once turned very red and began speaking very quickly. Look here, Erebus, he said. I do hope you won't think I got up like this, and the trumpeter and all, to try to impress you or make out that I'm different or any rot of that sort, because I'd rather have come in my old clothes, and they're burnt now. And my father said, Your father, said Erebus. Apparently King Lune is my father, and Shasta, said Shasta. I might really have guessed it, Corin being so nice and liked me. We were twins, you see. Oh, and my name isn't Shasta, it's Kor. Kor is nicer than Shasta, said Erebus. Brothers' names run like that in Archenland, said Shasta, or Prince Kor, as we must now call him. Like Dar and Darn, Kol and Colon, Kol and Colon, right, and so on. Shasta, I mean Kor, said Erebus. No, shut up. There's something I've got to say at once. I'm sorry I've been such a pig. I did change before I knew you were a prince. Honestly, I did. When you went back and faced the lion. It wasn't really going to kill you at all, that lion, said Kor. I know, said Erebus, nodding. Both were still solemn for a moment as each saw that the other knew about Aslan. Suddenly, Erebus remembered Kor's bandaged hand. I say, she cried, I forgot. You've been in a battle. Is that a wound? A mere scratch, said Kor, using for the first time a rather lordly tone. But a moment later he burst out laughing and said, if you want to know the truth, it isn't a proper wound at all. I only took off the skin of my knuckles, just as any clumsy fool might do without going near a battle. Still, you were in the battle, said Erebus. It must have been wonderful. It wasn't at all like I thought, said Kor. But pshaw, Kor, I mean, you haven't told me anything yet about King Luna and how he found out who you were. Well, let's sit down, said Kor, for it's a rather long story. And by the way, Father's an absolute brick. I'd be just as pleased, or nearly, or very nearly, at finding he's my father, even if he weren't a king. Even though education and all sorts of horrible things are going to happen to me, but you want the story. Well, Corin and I are twins, and about a week after we were both born, apparently, they took us to a wise old centaur in Narnia to be blessed or something. Now, this centaur was a prophet, as good as many centaurs are. Perhaps you haven't seen any centaurs yet. There were some in the battle yesterday, most remarkable people. I can't say I feel quite at home with them yet. I say, Erebus, there are going to be a lot of things to get used to in these northern countries. Yes, there are, said Erebus, but get on with the story. Well, as soon as he saw Corin and me, it seems the centaur looked at me and said, a day will come when that boy will save Archenland from the deadliest danger in which she ever lay. So, of course, my father and mother were very pleased. But there was someone present who wasn't. There was a chap called Lord Barr, who had been Father's Lord Chancellor, and apparently he'd done something wrong. Bezeling, or some word like that. I didn't understand that part very well. And Father had to dismiss him. But nothing else was done to him, and he was allowed to go on living in Archenland. But he must have been as bad as he could be, for it came out afterwards he had been in the pay of the Tisroc and had sent a lot of secret information to Tashbaan. So as soon as he heard I was going to see Archenland from the great danger, he decided I must be put out of the way. Well, he succeeded in kidnapping me. I don't know exactly how. And rode away down the Winding Arrow to the coast. He'd had everything prepared, and there was a ship manned with his own followers living ready for him, and he put out to sea with me on board. But Father got wind of it, though not quite in time, and was after him as quickly as he could. The Lord Barr was already at sea when Father reached the coast, but not out of sight. And the Father was embarked on one of his own warships within 20 minutes. It must have been a wonderful chase. They were 6 days following Barr's galleon and brought her to battle on the 7th. It was a great sea fight. I heard a lot about it yesterday evening, from 10 o'clock in the morning till sunset. Our people took the ship in the end, but I wasn't there. The Lord Barr himself had been killed in the battle. But one of his men said that early that morning, as soon as he saw he was certain to be overhauled, Barr had given me to one of his knights and sent us both away in the ship's boat, and that boat was never seen again. But of course, that was the same boat that Aslan, he seems to be at the back of all these stories, pushed ashore at the right place for Arshish to pick me up. I wish I knew the knight's name, for he must have kept me alive and starved himself to do it. I suppose Aslan would say that was part of someone else's story, said Erebus. I was forgetting that, said Kor. I wonder how the prophecy will work out, said Erebus, and what the great danger is that you're to save Archenland from. Well, said Kor rather awkwardly, they seem to think I've done it already. Erebus clapped her hands. Why, of course, she said. How stupid I am. And how wonderful. Archenland can never be in much greater danger than it was with Rabadash. Had crossed the Arrow with his 200 horse. And you hadn't yet got through with your message. Don't you feel proud? I think I feel a little bit scared, said Kor. And you'll be living in Anvord now, said Erebus, rather wistfully. Oh, said Kor, I'd nearly forgotten what I came about. Father wants you to come and live with us. He says there's been no lady in the court, and they call it the court. I don't know why, since Mother died. Do, Erebus, you'll like Father and Corin. They're not like me. They've been properly brought up. You needn't be afraid. Oh, stop it, said Erebus. We'll have a real fight. Of course I'll come. Now let's go and see the horses, said Kor. There was a great and joyous meeting between Bree and Kor, and Bree, who was still in a rather subdued frame of mind, agreed to set out for Anvord at once. He and Hwin would cross into Narnia on the following day. All four bade an affectionate farewell to the hermit and promised they would visit him again soon. By about the middle of the morning they were on their way. The horses had expected that Erebus and Kor would ride, but Kor explained that except in war, when everyone must do what he can to do best, no one in Narnia or Archenland ever dreamed of mounting a talking horse. This reminded poor Bree again of how little he knew about Narnian customs and what dreadful mistakes he might make. So while Hwin strode along in a happy dream, Bree got more nervous and more self-conscious with every step he took. Buck up, Bree, said Kor. It's far worse for me than for you. You aren't going to be educated. That's a fate worse than death. I shall be learning reading and writing and heraldry and dancing and history and music, while you'll be galloping and rolling on the hills of Narnia to your heart's content. But that's just the point, groaned Bree. Do talking horses roll? Do talking horses roll? Supposing they don't. I can't bear to give it up. What do you think, Hwin? I'm going to roll anyway, said Hwin. I don't suppose any of them will care 2 lumps of sugar whether you roll or not. Are we near that castle, said Bree to Kor. Round the next bend, said the prince. Well, said Bree, I'm going to have a good one now, and it may be the last. Wait for me a minute. He's taking a roll. It was 5 minutes before he rose again, blowing hard and covered with bits of bracken. Now I'm ready, he said in a voice of profound gloom. Lead on, Prince Kor, Narnia and the north. But he looked more like a horse going to a funeral than a long-lost captive returning to home and freedom. He's afraid of being educated. All right, tomorrow night is chapter 15. We'll be reading Rabadash the Ridiculous. And then I'll be telling you about what we'll do next. So I hope you have a wonderful evening. And again, it's a strange time where we can't be with our families in our house if they don't live with us, and they might be dangerous. So please be safe, and if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. That's a good old song. So I hope you have a wonderful evening, and God bless, and I will see you tomorrow at 4 and at 7. Have a good evening. Say goodbye. Say goodbye, Punky. You want to say goodbye? Bye-bye, says Punky. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining me.